Hello?
Is this Sherry?
Yes?
Sherry, this is Detective Davis.
Yes, ma'am?
Okay. You sound frantic in your messages.
Oh, yeah, because I don't know what's going on.
It's okay. That's why I've been wanting to find you and just ask you something, okay?
Okay.
I have received a tip on I work in sex crimes, and I've been working some cases, and I received a tip that you may have been sexually assaulted by a police officer.
Yes, I have. But I didn't say anything because I know that I know police department and police they all stick together.
Well, we ain't sticking together on this one.
Oh, okay.
So I would like to interview you.
I didn't ever get his badge number. I don't know anything. I was terrified. I just didn't know what was going on because he said I'll do that, or he was going to. I don't know. I didn't know whether if I still did it, or is he going to take me to jail or what. He was a black man.
Okay.
He was in a black and white police car.
Sherry, I believe you. If I didn't believe you, I wouldn't have been calling you, trying to find you. Okay. Let me ask you this. Tell me your description of him.
He's black.
He's black male.
Muscular.
How tall, could you tell? You're pretty tall. How tall are you? How tall are you?
5'11".
Is he taller than you or shorter than you?
Like right here, maybe, like that.
So you think he's shorter than you?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of car did he have?
A black and white one.
Black and white car?
Oklahoma City police car.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this. I want to get a DNA sample from you today. And the reason I want to get a DNA sample is because I know what officer did this to you. Okay? And there is some unknown female DNA on his pants that I took. And I want to see if it's yours. This is a waiver saying that you are going to let me, Kim Davis, and I'm a detective and this is where we're located, are going to let me take buccal swabs. It's just Q-tips on the inside of your mouth to get a DNA sample so I can compare it to the DNA on his pants. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
One more question. When you described him as a black male, and I don't know, everybody's like, are you? Are you a medium color? What's your skin tone to you?
I'm light.
You're light. Okay, what was he?
He's darker.
He's darker than you? Darker than your skin tone? Okay.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You state your full legal name?
Sherry Louise Michelle
Smith.
Who contacted you? If you
Kim
recall?
Davis.
Detective Davis?
Yes.
Okay. And where did she call you on the phone, or did she meet you in person?
She called me on the phone.
Okay. And what did you tell her on the phone?
She asked me if I had she asked me if I had any problems with the police officer, and I told her yes.
Did you meet her in person after the phone call?
Yes, sir.
And where did that meeting take place?
The DA's in that building next to the courthouse.
Okay. How tall are you?
5'11".
5'11"? All right. And do you recall explaining to Miss Davis how tall this officer was that assaulted you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, I'm going to hand you another exhibit. We marked it as exhibit number 4. That's a video still of you explaining to the officer how tall the person was that assaulted you. Do you recognize yourself in that image?
Yes, sir.
Is that you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, how tall did you tell was the person that assaulted you?
I don't recall how tall I said he was, but I did say that he was shorter than I was.
Okay. And we say shorter than you by about how much? I mean, in that image, it looks like you're holding your hand up maybe to your shoulders.
Yeah.
So he came up to about your shoulders?
Yeah.
So maybe what, 5'5", 5'6"?
Yes.
A shorter man?
Yes, sir.
And how else would you physically describe the officer, other than by height?
I had said that he was black. He was dark complected. I think black. That's what I said.
I'm marking this Plaintiff's Exhibit A. I have a copy for you here. Miss Ellis, do you recognize this individual?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How do you recognize that person?
From court.
Okay. Do you recognize that person from any other time in your life?
No.
At the time you were at trial, did you believe you had seen that individual before?
No. I've seen him. During trial, that's when I seen him.
Okay. Had you had any previous interactions with that man to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge. Besides him.
What do you mean?
It's besides, you know, I haven't never seen him but before trial. That's when I finally seen who accused of raping me.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. It is great to be back and to see so many of you here in chat. Really appreciate you being here. Sorry for the late start. I was having issues with the headphones that I got, so that was my fault, and I apologize. I'm wondering if I can get Jack kind of follow Foul Play's lead here a little bit real quick. I'm just going to put everybody's comments or whatever. I'm going to highlight them. If you'll read out everybody who's here in the chat so far, Jack.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, we first got Sheila Hawkins. Cherie and me, Catnit. Who else we got? Rhonda's in the chat. Becca. Hello, Becca. Jazz Naz. And that's all I see so far on your channel, and
Okay.
I think it's the same on Foul Play. Yep, it is.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Jack. We have a lot of lurkers. I'm assuming. Says we have a lot more viewing, which is fine. Hey, I don't care if you're lurking. If you don't have anything to say or comments or questions, lurk away as long as you're learning. And hopefully, if you do have questions, you'll ask either in the chat or in the comment section, or you'll catch us over on Daniel's Truth Discord and ask us over there.
I miss little Barb. Sorry about that, little Barb.
Oh, hey, little Barb, it is so great to see you here. You know, I remember a long time ago, and I don't mean to embarrass you, little Barb. That's not at all my intention. I know you had other things going on, but way back when I first decided to cover this case, two people volunteered to help or said they wanted to help and be involved. And it wasn't like it was a notice that was put out for everybody. Hey, anybody, you know, I didn't do that, but the questions were asked if anybody's interested in, this case and wants to help, be a part of, what we were trying to do, let us know, and we would certainly take all the help we could get. And that was way back, gosh, probably more than 3 years ago by now. And Linda and I had started working on the case together. And I think it was actually Linda who had asked the question if anybody was interested in helping, to let her know. And the two names that she came back to me with were Cherie and Little Barb. And we did have a couple of meetings, and we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know very much about the case, and so, we were trying to learn as well, and it was just going to be a learning process from the get-go. And I do remember having a few meetings, and I know that Little Barb was part of those meetings, and we kind of got stale or kind of got stuck, didn't really know what to do or where to go next, and then I think that Little Barb had some IRL stuff going on and wasn't able to join us. But I do know that she's also been very supportive of the channel and of Daniel's innocence. And but I've just always remembered that. And I'm sure that, it was certainly by now that if there were others who had been interested, along the way, we would absolutely, we take all the help we can get, for sure. So Jazz Naz, looks like Jazz Naz is over in Foul Play. Jazz Naz is awesome because he does not, at least in any live or podcast that I pop into, he doesn't ever miss an opportunity to pop in, even if it's just for a few minutes, to the chat and just remind everyone to like the video. And I appreciate that. And, to everyone else, if that's all that you have, the opportunity or the chance to do, please, just drop in, like the video, maybe leave a comment, share the video, and, help us get some more subscribers or people who would be able, willing to learn more about the case. So a special thank you and shout out to Jazz Naz for always doing that for all of the content creators. I appreciate it, and I know the others do as well. So I'm looking here. Catnit is posting some links for us, so I appreciate that, Catnit. I missed, oh, there, okay, over on Foul Play, Sila 442. Yes, we're talking about the Daniel Holtzclaw case, and Jack streams it on Foul Play just to help us get more awareness to Daniel's case, because we don't have nearly the awareness or following that Foul Play does. So we've gained a lot of Daniel's case on my channel has gained a lot more support and viewers since Jack has been doing that. So a shout out to Jack as well. I try to remember to thank Jack every week. And then, like I said, Catnet is in the chat, dropping links in both Foul Play and my channel. If you're watching in Foul Play and you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider doing that. Just jump over and maybe, if it hasn't already been linked here by Kat, maybe she could drop that in the Foul Play chat for people to come over and join my channel as well. Like the videos, leave us a comment, give it a share. I already feel myself fading, so I have not prepared the show tonight the way that I intended to show it or present it. I know this is starting to sound like a broken record, but I am medicated again, so I didn't get to work on the video for this show tonight as much as I wanted to. And so I kind of, at the last minute, decided to go a different route, but it's still going to be effective. And then what I have planned for the video, I am going to drop a day early in the members, YouTube members chat only group in my Discord. It's nothing necessarily special, but they'll get to view it a day earlier than it premieres, when it finally premieres. And I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to upload that as a premiere when it's ready. And so you can watch it at your convenience at that point. And I will I will be in the chat when it does premiere, so that, you know, at least one of us is there to answer questions and whatnot. So anyway, I asked my panel, Jack and Sherry, to help me when I started getting crazy tonight, and I know they will. I can't believe they haven't decided I'm crazy already, because now I'm just rambling. But I wanted to say hi to Jack and Sherry. Kay is not available tonight. She had a prior commitment with if I'm not mistaken, I think she has a friend who's very ill, and she had a prior commitment with that person, which is where she should be. And also Susan is also just not feeling up to it quite yet. So, you know, send a message to Susan, wish her well, wish that she, you know, hoping that she gets better soon. She's been not feeling well for quite some time, and that always makes me nervous. So send a message either over in Foul Play or tag her over in Daniel's Discord, and let her know that we're still thinking of her and wishing her well, and to Kay for her friend as well. So I'm going to give Jack and Sherry as much time as they would. Oh, before I forget, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jack. We're going to be doing a slideshow presentation in just a few minutes when we get started. And I wanted to give credit to, thank you, Colette. You're so sweet. You guys are all so sweet to me, and I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, I'm an apologist. I think that's what that term would be. And I feel like I always have to explain myself. And deep down inside, I know I don't, but I always do. Anyway, I want to give a huge, huge, huge shout out to Catnet, because she's the one who went through hundreds, and I'm talking hundreds of slides regarding Daniel's case that Kay and Cherie have been working on over the years. I contributed, in fact, I think I started it and I contributed a little bit a couple of years ago when I started this slide presentation. And Kay and Cherie have grown it from the probably 30 or 40 slides that I started with to now it's hundreds. And Kay has gone to great lengths to put information in these slides that you might look at and read at some point. At some point, it's going to be made available for public to view, but at this point, it's just not ready. But when that happens, you're going to see how much thought and research Kay put into these slides when that time comes. And you're going to be amazed because she always says, you know, she's a little self-deprecating herself at times, even though she shouldn't be, but she deserves a lot of credit for all the work she's done. But the amazing feat that Catnip has done this week is going through these slides and finding everything in them, the hundreds of slides that was relevant to Sherry Ellis specifically. And she pulled those all out and she made a single slide presentation of just the Sherry Ellis slides. I know it might sound like no big deal or something that's easy to do, but trust me, and I'm never going to admit it. Cherie can admit it because she knows, because she's seen all the slides, how not easy this task was that I asked Catnip to do for us. So everybody, please give a huge thanks to Kat in the chat because she definitely deserves that. So Jack, let's go ahead and let you please.
What up?
What up? I'm muting because I don't need to talk anymore. It's not for me.
I got a unhappy grandbaby. She's mad. I don't know what she's mad about. Anyway, just wanted to welcome everyone to the podcast tonight. Rhonda and Cherie and everybody that's in the live chat. I think you're going to find these very informative. As Rhonda just said, they're very well laid out, very well done. So a lot of work has been put into it. So I'm ready. I'm ready whenever you guys are. Cherie?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Inside the Wrongful Conviction of Daniel Holtzclaw.
Sheesh, guys are no help at all right now. Just kidding. I'm kidding. They're going to do most of the work when it comes to reading the slides. But to start with, Cherie and I are going to read just a little bit of information that I'm not able to. I don't have the ability to show it on screen right now, but we're just going to read some information for you, kind of give you an idea about just the bare minimum nuts and bolts of this particular accuser, Sherry Ellis. So I'm going to start, and then Cherie will finish it, and then we'll start on the slides. So, okay. Sherry Ellis. Daniel was found guilty on all of the charges regarding Sherry Ellis. So the date when the police solicited Sherry Ellis's allegation was on August 1st of 2014. The date that she claims she was assaulted was May 7th of 2014. There were 4 counts and 4 verdicts for Sherry Ellis. Count number 10 was forcible oral sodomy. Number 11 was rape in the first degree. Sorry, I should have put up the warning, the trigger warning. I apologize. A lot, just like most of the cases in Daniel's case, there's a lot to be, a lot of things can be very triggering. So I apologize for that. Just so you know, in case you need to move, stop watching or whatever you need to do. So number 11 was rape in the first degree. Number 33 was sexual battery, and number 34 was sexual battery. And he was found guilty on all 4 of those charges. And the total for all 4 of those charges was 62 years to his 263 years. At the time of the, what's that?
It was the most of any of them.
Yes, he got the most years. This was the accuser who he got the most years on. And as I'm saying that, I want you to think back to that video that we just watched that we played at the very beginning, at the very end, when she said she had never seen they showed him a picture of Daniel Holtzclaw, is what her attorney had showed her. And she said she had never seen him before. And she said the first time she saw him was in court.
Yeah, at trial.
At trial. Right.
And what she said to Detective Davis, this short black guy, shorter than her and darker than her. Darker
skin than her. So remember that. Remember back to that video, and you can go and watch that video again. In fact, maybe Kat can link that video in the channel, in the chat, for you to watch again at your convenience. And so, yeah, because it's completely strange, the way it all played out with Sherry Ellis. So guilty on all 4 of the charges. At the time that she was allegedly assaulted, she was 39 years old. And now Sherry is going to go through the allegations and evidence of Daniel's innocence at trial based on Sherry Ellis's complaint.
Sherry Ellis claimed that after Daniel stopped his patrol car because she was walking in the street, he searched her inappropriately, touched her breasts and vaginal area, checked her for warrants, found she had some city warrants, and used those against her to make her comply when he exited the car and orally sodomized her, his penis suddenly appearing in front of her. But she then claimed he asked her no questions about crime in... Wait a minute. Okay, yeah. She then claimed he asked her no questions about crime in the area and instead drove immediately to a park by a closed school and raped her for 5 to 10 minutes as she was bent over with her arms on the back seat and the door open. Shall I continue? I guess so.
Yes, just okay. Not that, yellow part, just not the yellow part.
Okay. Evidence of Daniel's innocence at trial. Detectives searched for Sherry Ellis by contacting her associates, her former long-term partner's son, messaging Ellis on Facebook without a response, and then contacting a relative of hers on Facebook, leading Sherry Ellis to call Detective Davis. Detective Davis told her untruthfully, "I received a tip that you may have been sexually assaulted by a police officer." Sherry Ellis described her assailant as a black man. Her first suspect description to Detective Davis in their phone call interview. Daniel is a 6'1" Japanese-American man who was even taller in police boots, and his skin tone is pale. After hearing the alleged assault was a black officer, Detective Davis told Ellis Smith, "Sherry, I believe you. If I didn't believe you, I wouldn't have been calling you, trying to find you. I know what officer did this to you." As seen in Smith's interview video, Detective Davis met one officer, Daniel. Ellis, in her video interview, described that the officer was shorter by several inches than her own height of 5'11". She told Detective Davis that the black officer had skin a shade darker than her own. Patrol car AVL shows that Daniel's patrol car could only have been motionless for less than 3 minutes and 50 seconds in the public park, which does not match Ellis's claim that Daniel raped her for 5 to 10 minutes in a park. Ellis alleged the sexual assault occurred on a night when she was cheating on her long-term partner by having sex with another man, and she told her long-term partner about the alleged rape at the same time as she admitted having sex with another man.
Was that it?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I wonder, well, probably bad timing, but have a picture of that. We have pictures of that public park, or do you have some already?
I have a lot of pictures, and you know what? In my my haste to trying to get everything, let me just show you. I can pull this one up fairly quickly, I think. Let me. We took when we were in Oklahoma last summer. We took a lot of pictures of this whole area, around this entire area, around the park and everything. And there's just, let's see how fast I could come up with them in my files here. There was just, I don't know, as we stood there and walked around, Cherie, Kay, Susan, and Cherie's husband and I, we stood there, we walked around and we looked at the area, and we just couldn't imagine. There were so many houses around the park, or the abandoned schoolyard where she claims she was assaulted, that we just couldn't really imagine that nobody in those any of those houses that were fairly close, just across, literally just across the street, wouldn't have seen something. And I'm getting closer to a picture here, sorry. But it was just, and it's kind of that way, and I think we've already mentioned this before, but it was kind of that way with all of the areas, all of the alleged assault areas where the women claimed well, to be honest, the women didn't really claim that this was that these places were where they were assaulted. The claims came from the detectives. That's where, that's how the claims were, the dates and the places were decided on for most of these women, was after they would get one of these accusers to tell a story about their alleged assault by Daniel. They they would go back. It's my belief, and I know others believe this as well, that they would pull the AVL from Daniel and be in a position where they could suggest a time and or location to the girls, to the accuser, especially if the accuser was like, oh, I don't remember when it was, I don't know where it was, I just know it happened. So they would have, I believe that the detectives had the AVLs already pulled, although they deny this fact all the way from start to finish. They deny that, and I can't prove that they didn't, because the correct information to learn that was never disclosed to the defense, even though Daniel's attorney asked for the dates and of when the AVLs were pulled. Detective Davis came back with a very vague, I guess, statement, I guess you would say, of where, when they pulled it, and it was not an explanation in any way, shape, or form, but they just, that they left it at that during trial, and that's where it got left. So for whatever reason, I'm not finding
I put mine in the chart. reading group chat if you want, of the park.
Okay. All right. I just thought, you know what, the easiest thing is probably just going to be to go right to Google Earth and show it. I just worked on it a little bit over the weekend. So let me get that too. And let's see. And I'll show you a picture of the park. And now I don't have the same explanation or the same, I don't know what the Kay naturally is really, really good. And also Brian Bates, very, very good for explaining how it couldn't have been Daniel. And if you go to Bates, Holtzclawtrial.com, you'll see what Brian Bates says. I think it might be in his second episode of Ellis in the wrap-up episode, but he definitely gives you a great timeline of why it couldn't have been or wasn't Daniel who assaulted Sherry Ellis this night. So here is, I just gotta make it a little easier to see here. Although it doesn't really do well when you're trying to do videos, I've learned. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to screen share this and show you an idea of what it looks like, this area where Sherry Ellis claims that she was assaulted. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Can everybody see this okay? In chat, my viewers. I turned it the wrong way. Oh, Jack, I wish you were here to do this for me. Okay, so this that I've outlined in pink is the area. And like I said, we actually went to this home down here where I have it marked with the S, the pin that's got the S in it. We went by this house where Sherry Ellis lived at the time. And it's very close, actually, in proximity to where the park is. So this is where Sherry Ellis lived, at this house right here, third block in from the corner. This street right here, can you guys see can they see my cursor, my little hand on the screen?
I can.
You know? Okay. So where this little hand is on the screen, the cursor, this street right here is Miramar. And this street is you'll hear this name several times throughout Daniel's case, and not just associated with Sherry Ellis, but with other accusers. So Miramar. So this is Miramar here, and this street right here is Northeast 16th and Terrace. Not to be confused with Northeast 16th Terrace that runs up here just a little north of it, a block north of it. Very confusing, but this is Northeast 16th and Terrace. It's confusing to me, but for whatever reason, I don't know. So this is her route that she claims that she took. She left her house, or the house of her and her common law husband, and she left on Northeast 16th and Terrace. She got to Highland Drive, which is right here. She turned right, and we took this route too. Cherie, when we made our trip to Oklahoma, we drove this same route. We came from Miramar and we made the same route from the house. We turned right onto Highland Drive, and we actually found the house that Sherry Ellis claims she was stopped in front of, because initially Sherry Ellis was walking, and the officer came up behind her and stopped her and to talk to her. And he did that. This is 17th here, Northeast 17th. This is Northeast 18th. he allegedly made that stop of her initially in front of the house. Oh my gosh, Cherie, was it on this block or was it in this block? Pretty sure it was in this block. At any rate, he stopped her along one of these houses here, in front of one of these houses, and she makes mention of a crepe myrtle tree that he stopped by, and that was where he assaulted her. Or, well, orally assaulted her, I guess, initially. Claims that he orally assaulted her here on Highland Drive, and then made her get in the car and drove her up here to where we turn right, where the pink goes to the right on 18th, Northeast 18th Street. And right here where it says cul-de-sac, she claims he jumped the curb here. There was a little curb on the cul-de-sac. This little part right here that's kind of surrounded by this white trail, this part right here is actually a little park, a little playground rather. It's just got some very basic playground toys and stuff like that. When we visited Oklahoma this last summer, we were we parked, I believe, right over here, if I'm not mistaken, and we were just looking at this, from this area, looking over here at the park. I'm not 100% certain, but this small little pink line that I've made here is where allegedly Brian Bates has a much better depiction of this than I do on his Holtzclawtrial.com episode 8, I believe. He has a much better depiction. I was just going off of my memory at this time. But he explains how all of this happens and what's happening during this time, because once the car goes off of the a regular street with an address, it's no longer, it can't be viewed by AVL. So during all this time, he's off the grid, I guess you could say. And this is when Sherry Ellis claims he jumped the curb here, drove her in here, and pulled her. And I've got it, it's covered by this label here, and I'm really sorry about that. But there's a tree right here under where the red pin is. She says that he pulled in between this tree and the building that was over here, and that was where he sexually assaulted her. So let's look at that. Let's just take a look at that. If this was the alleged assault location, then there's at least 3 houses that I can see here, here, that could have probably very easily looked out of a window in the front of their house and saw something weird going on with a cop car over here late at night. To my knowledge, none of these people were interviewed. If they were, there's no report about it by Kim Davis. So I would think that these people here would be being interviewed, but we don't have a report of it. We do have a report of a interview from the lady that lived in, I think this corner house. They did interview her, and she didn't see anything. But where the main rape itself occurred, right here, nobody over here was interviewed. And I just think that's weird. And we stood here and we looked at it. It's so surreal, just like when we went to Wisconsin those couple of summers. Cherie will agree to this. It's very surreal to stand in the place of an alleged assault location. At least I felt like it was really bizarre and weird. And to look around and wonder why nothing from these people over here was ever mentioned or said. It just doesn't make any sense. You hear it on TV all the time, or even on real news things. You hear about how the police canvassed the neighborhood. The police didn't canvass anything in this case, or in any of the alleged assaults in Daniel's case for that matter. No neighbors, no people, no anything were contacted for interviews. And I just think that's weird. I'm really sorry. We should be on to the slides by now, so I apologize. Um, um, so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put the slides on, and I am going to do more work on this. And I know I said that about um, the Terry Morris one. I'm still working on Terry Morris's from 2 weeks ago because hers is extremely, extremely questionable. I want to make sure I get all the things about it right. But I'm going to keep working on this as well. I'm going to show you an AVL about this, and also encourage you to go to holtzclawtrial.com and go to the homepage of episode 8. And Brian Bates has a phenomenal records in there in his website. So I definitely encourage you to do that at any time, now or tomorrow or whatever. We're going to go ahead and start the slides. But before we do, I've missed a lot of comments here, and I want to, you guys know how I am. I like to make sure that we're not missing people who have dropped in or comments that are being made. Catnip's kind of been putting some information, it looks like, so thank you so much. And we'll go over all that in detail. Jason Truth looks like he's over on Foul Play. Says, thanks for covering this epic case. You ladies know truth and how druggy Black women, or in this case, could get together and make up hideous accusations and lies against Daniel. Race played a role. I agree that that race played a role overall in Daniel's case, but I don't believe that the accusers got together and cooked up a story. I think for the most part, none of them, we know of 2 of them that know each other. Go ahead, Jack.
I was going to say, to me, it was the Oklahoma City Police Department that went after Daniel. This is how I see it. Sorry.
Oh, for sure.
And because of all the volatile things going on around the country, they used it. It wasn't the ladies that used it. It was.
Right.
I mean, there were a lot of issues going on at the time, and Oklahoma, I think, said, no, look what we're doing. We're going to prosecute this guy, so back off. We're doing good over here. Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to get this guy. We're going to get this serial rapist cop, which was huge. It was a huge part of their narrative. Yeah, I agree, Jack. But to our knowledge so far in all the research that we've done, 2 of them, well, let's see. Kayla Lyles and Terry Morris knew each other, and Tabitha Barnes and Florine Mathis knew each other. In the past couple of years, we've done episodes on all of them, shows on all of them. But there's in this new series that we've started over with, we have more information now, and we have even more, that we can show you that those 2 sets of women knew each other. But other than that, we don't have any evidence or proof of anything that any of them knew any larger group of the accusers. And I also don't know, I'm not convinced that they all got together and got stories straight, even the 2 groups who did know each other. Everything that these accusers said and came up with, as we go through these different police reports and these different cases, different accusers, you can kind of start seeing where, especially the ones where we get recorded interviews with the detective and the accuser, you can kind of hear how the detectives, I don't want to say fed, because that's a very blatant and obvious method of
led.
Offering
not
information,
fed, not fed, but led.
Led, yeah, implied things that the women picked up on, and and went with their story. I don't think we have any reports of any follow-up interviews with any of the accusers by the detectives. The way it sounds and from what information we have, they interviewed each accuser once, maybe twice, but there's no, reports of any, further questioning or anything like that. Just very bizarre based on other cases and trials that I've watched, that a lot of us have watched, it's just a very odd way of approaching a case. So I do agree, Jason, that race played a role in the overall case for sure. And as far as the women being drug addicts, pushers, prostitutes or former prostitutes, and poor, all of that is true, and I also agree with all of that. But I also think that, and people don't like it when I say this, but I just think it's a fact. Most of these women were mentally ill and or heavy drug users, and very easily led and manipulated. And we have suspicions, some of us have suspicions that this happened, if these women were told at some point, if this goes to trial, you could file a civil rights case against him and win a lot of money. And they did. They absolutely did. During the trial, Ben Crump and his little merry band of, I can't say it, dirty attorneys, they were there, man. They were on this case so quick because it was all Black women and a white officer, although Daniel wasn't white. He's Japanese American, but he does have, light skin. So here it is, 13 women, 13 Black women, and one racist white cop to him. And nothing could be further from the truth. But I agree. And there was a lot of racial tension in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma during that time. There are people who have come into our chat before and said, people who live in Oklahoma City or lived in Oklahoma or Oklahoma City at the time, and have told us, yes, it was extremely racially charged during this time in the area. And, we'd already gone through, what's his name, Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman's case, and George Zimmerman was found not guilty of Trayvon Martin's death. And bubbling very, very right up the street from this, not street literally, but right around the corner from when all of this started with Daniel and this case, very shortly after everything exploded in Ferguson, Missouri with Michael Brown. And then we do know, if you remember back to that happening, there was a racially charged explosion that took place with riots that lasted for, I don't even know how long, but it got really bad. And this case was leading up to that, but there was already racial tension in Oklahoma and Oklahoma City from what people who live there have told me. So that was, and in an interview, Kim and Rocky told Michelle Malkin, there was no racial tension. Well, we know different. We know better than that. So
no racial problems and no touch DNA. So
yeah, no, exactly. So, but yeah, I thank you very much, Jason, for your comment. I agree with it. 99.9% of that I agree with. And then let's see, Jaznaz says it's just maddening how this case hasn't been thrown out. I agree. I guarantee you, though, Oklahoma is, well, nothing is moving right now because, he's in post-conviction right now, but his appeal was just pretty much, one and done, like done and over with, no appeal. He wasn't even allowed an appeal. And just wait, you guys, until we get into later in this series, until we get into the secret hearings that were had. It's going to blow your mind, piss you off, and make you scratch your head and wonder how the fuck did they get away with all of this. Pardon me, but they did, and they still are. Rhonda, hi, Rhonda. It is so great to see you. I love you and miss you so much. I really do. I hope you're doing well. Yes, and Jasnet says there's so many holes in the conviction. Absolutely, so many holes. And listen, when people talk to you and tell you out there, if you ask anybody about the case and they're familiar, and they say, but all the evidence and the DNA, there is no evidence, you guys. Jack, Cherie, back me up. There is zero evidence in this case.
None. Zero.
None.
Zilch.
There is no evidence. And Doc has already done an amazing presentation for us, proving how the DNA that they talk about, the DNA in his pants, was so damning. And when people on the outside, but the DNA, that DNA was nothing more than possibly most likely touch DNA. And it was such a small amount that it barely made it on the, I can't say the word, the scale, whatever they use in Oklahoma City Crime Lab. But it was barely measurable and allowed to be, to a point where, I mean, at some point they have to exclude something because there's not enough of it. That was right on that line of, possibly needing to, am I using the right word? Exclude it? Inconclusive or something like that. So there is no DNA and there is no evidence. And anybody who tells you or tries to prove to you different, send them to us because we know better. There is none. TJ is lurking. TJ, we really appreciate your comments about Oklahoma and Oklahoma City. We understand that you have some knowledge of how things were, how things really were during that time. I just love it. And if we get, oh my gosh, I'm so cloudy right now. My brain, I can't think, but from UK, Liam. If Liam drops into the chat with TJ, you guys are all in for a good laugh. But more holes than my favorite underwear, says TJ. Thank you, TJ. So then there's Uncuff the Innocent. Yes. Thank you for sharing that also, Catnip. 23rd is the main street in that area. Yes. In the map that I was showing, 23rd Street is the main street. Let's see. I am not familiar with this person, Stephen Weishop. I hope I'm saying that correct. Reading your comment cold. I'm sorry, but the women who accused weren't the best lookers. We are supposed to believe he would risk his career over those women. That's a very common comment, and it's very common. Most people say that when I'm reading through different YouTube channel comments and things like that, and most women say that. I don't usually get into it, but occasionally I will. But I will say it here. Yeah, none of the women are particularly attractive, honestly. And most of them are all really strung out and look bad from drugs and those such things. But I also think it's more important that I say this, that rape and sexual assault is not about the actual physical act and attraction to a woman or a man. It's about power, and that's what it's about. It's not about how the person looks or dresses or carries themselves. It's about whether or not they can gain power and control over the person. So you're right, Stephen, that they aren't particularly attractive women, I guess, by those standards. But I think it's important also to remember that that's not what those types of crimes are about. And that's not to demean your comment, because I understand what you're saying. You're not the only one who says that and feels that. But,
it's all about the power. All about
we
the
just have to
power.
remember that. Yeah. Stephen also says this happened in Oklahoma. Yes. Which has a scandal of corrupt judges. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we know. And we've done a lot of research. Cherie and I should say, Kay lives in Oklahoma, but Cherie and I, and Kay actually, through reading and researching, have learned that Oklahoma has an entire, well over 100 years history of scandal and corruption for sure. So we absolutely agree with that. And it's not just because of the situation with Daniel or Daniel's case, but Daniel's case isn't the only wrongful conviction in Oklahoma currently. I happen to believe Julius Jones is innocent of murdering the man that was murdered there in, what was that? What was that, Cherie? Norman. I think he was murdered in Norman, Oklahoma. I happen to believe Julius Jones is. Yeah, I think that I believe he's innocent. And we've talked about and covered on this channel many cases where men were sent to death row who were factually innocent. And let's not forget that right now, it should be one of the biggest cases in the entire country, has been, I don't know what the right word is, but Richard Glossip. Richard Glossip is an huge example of how corrupt Oklahoma is with their criminal justice system. I won't go into Richard Glossip. I'm sure most of you here already know. If you live in Oklahoma, I don't know how you wouldn't be familiar with Richard's case. But for the very first time, it looks like there's some sort of possibility that he may either get a new trial or be exonerated and freed altogether. But I swear to God, if that poor man has to go to the death chamber one more time, and this is a horrible thing to say, but if he has to go to that death chamber one more time and it's not carried through with, I don't know if I can take it. Like, I am so sickened and crushed every time he goes to the death chamber and then they stop the execution at the last minute. And thank God. I mean, he's alive and he should be alive and he should not be in prison. But that to me is so torturous, would be so torturous for him, firstly, and for his wife and his family to have to go through that same horrifying possibility again and again and again is, what is it, inhumane to everybody that's involved in Richard's case. So we also watch that case, and whenever anything significant pops up, we will jump on and do a live about it as well. So yes, thank you, Stephen. TJ says, Kim Davis targeted Daniel. The question is why. She did target him. I have my reasons for why I think she did, but it wasn't just her. It was really the entire department, sex crimes department that did. And I have my theories why. I'm happy to talk about those with you in Discord. At some point, if you'd like to, we can have a voice chat in Discord or, however you'd like to, but I'm happy to do that at some time. Yes, I would say you're right, Sheila. The accusers had carrots in the form of dollar signs dangled in front of them. Sorry, I know we're trying to get to some slides here, but these are really great questions and comments, and I want to make sure I cover them. Stephen says, I agree the courts in Oklahoma are being exposed for corruption. I don't see this kid risking his whole life and career to rape these women. I don't see him needing to. Thank you. And this is not me trying to say I'm, oh, look at me, or I'm better or anything else, but I've been writing back and forth to Daniel for probably 2 years now. I've spoken to Daniel on the phone. There is not anything about Daniel's behavior, his movements, his writing, anything that makes me even think, whoa, wait a second. Never have I ever gotten any indication from Daniel that he might be lying about anything. So let me just put that out there. Again, I'm an advocate for him and his innocence. So, I guess that's really kind of, either you can believe me or not, but that's just how I feel. So thank you for that comment, Stephen. Now, Stephen, I guess you don't have to answer this, but we know which judge convicted him or sentenced him. Do you live in Oklahoma or Oklahoma City, Stephen? I'm behind in the comments, so I really can't tell. Because I'm just curious if you're familiar with certain judges, if you live there. But we know which judge convicted him, and he had to resign from the bench. Well, resign or get fired, but we know how that goes. 2 years ago, I think, or maybe it's going to be 3 years ago, or 2 years ago this April, March or April, he had to resign, excuse me, from the bench because he was accused of, quote, serious sexual assault, end quote, against 2 or 3 women in the DA's office and 2 defense attorneys outside of the DA's office. So Judge Timothy Henderson, I also have a video when this all broke and when this all happened. There's a video on him if you want to search my channel for that. So if you're familiar with who Judge Timothy Henderson is, Stephen, please, feel free to share. We're always interested. Sheila says, under normal situations, these women would never be allowed to be considered as a good witness. No, and we haven't read all of the trial testimonies yet. Those are coming slowly but surely. But none of these witnesses, if you've listened to any of the preliminary and trial testimony that we have read, think about it. How many of them were credible at all, and just in the ones that we've already read. So, but the credibility, there were some not guilties, of course, but it's astounding that, for instance, Sherry Ellis, I know, and we'll probably get to it when we do the trial testimony, but at some point because in the trial, the prosecutor will always say, can you please point to the defendant? And, the witness will point to the person who's on trial. When they asked Sherry Ellis to do that, she couldn't point out Daniel. She didn't know who it was. And if I'm not mistaken, they even asked her to stand up, look all around the courtroom. And as far as I can remember from when I read this a couple of years ago, I don't think she was ever able to point him out. And now, after her deposition in that video we played for you, now we know why. She had never seen him before. But he's in prison for 62 years due to her allegation. Yes, Cherie put in the chat, the judge was disgraced former Judge Timothy Henderson. Absolutely. Stephen says, so Daniel risked his whole career to, no, it didn't happen. Yeah, it definitely a racial hoax, really, for sure. Unfortunately, a man's life has been ruined and taken, really. He's not being executed, but the way the judge sentenced him consecutively. So he has to serve every single one of the accusers that he was found guilty for their charges. They have to be run consecutively, which is, tantamount to 2.5 or 3 lifetimes, if you think about it that way.
we also have to think about the fear of the jury, and this is a real thing.
Yeah.
If you, by that I mean
That.
the jury being afraid of not convicting him,
Yes.
fear for their lives, or their lives of their family.
Yes. Because, well, first of all, there's news footage of the crowds outside the courtroom. And now that I've driven by the Oklahoma County Courthouse last summer, I already knew this, but until we saw it, it didn't really sink in. The sidewalk, the court is on the sidewalk. How do I explain that? So I don't know how many stories the court itself actually is. I believe that the trial was being held on, Kay's going to get me if I say this wrong, but I believe it was the second or third floor, if I'm not mistaken. At any rate, these people down below on the sidewalk below the courtroom were constantly chanting, ugly things about,
And you could hear it inside the courtroom during trial.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it was, and Scott Adams, the defense counsel, brought it up to the judge's attention, and even the prosecutor, Galen Giger, said, "Yeah, I have to admit, you can hear it." And the judge, and so Scott Adams, defense counsel, asked for, I can't remember exactly what he asked for, but the judge said, "I don't need to do that. I'll just admonish the jury to not pay attention to it." Like, what? That's like the old saying, you can't unring a bell. Same thing, man. When you're hearing it, you can't unhear it. So anyway, yes, we may end up here and just sliding through these slides quickly, but I don't want to. But this is really great. This chat is really great. Stephen says, is Timothy Henderson, who was having sexual relations with the prosecutor, not the prosecutor on Daniel's case, but he was definitely having sexual relations, whether it was consensual or not. We're not 100% certain yet, but yes. And
it was more than one.
Yeah, exactly. 2 cases that prosecutor that DA prosecuted are now, one of them is, Sherry, you answer to Hashagen and court, because I don't remember how that's going. Hopefully you remember. She's muted. Are you talking? Okay, she might not have heard me. 2 cases so far because of Henderson having an affair with the prosecutor are now being, I know what it was. Hashagen's got a new trial because of it. So he's going to be getting a new trial. I think his new trial starts in March or April. We just talked about this with Kay the other day. And then the other one, Aaron, I think his name is Aaron Fort. The DA just said, you know what? He served enough of his lifetime sentence. I don't know how long he had served. I don't remember. But she said, no, we're not even going to grant a new trial. He just release him. And she just released him. So that's just 2 of the cases that we know Henderson's sexual escapades have affected. There may be more, there may not. But I say this, it sounds really weird to say, but unfortunately, Daniels was not one of them, at least that we're able to prove right now. Let's see. TJ. In the 70s and 80s, there was not so much after the 90s and hip hop. I have no idea. Sorry, I know. TJ always gets after me too. For putting his comments up out of context. I'm sorry. So Stephen says, so they had blackmail on him. on who had blackmail on, I don't know.
Yeah, he's
I'm not
saying that
sure.
somebody had blackmail on Henderson, but the trial was already
No,
said and done. We didn't find out about the affairs until a couple of years ago. So
just going on 2 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, people have blackmail on Henderson. Whether they're planning on using it against him or not, I don't know about that. If they
risky
are,
business,
they haven't come forward yet.
yeah, risky business doing that to a judge. Risky.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you never know who these people know. You just don't. They're around a lot of bad element.
Right. Yeah. TJ says he lived through it. I'm assuming he's talking about Daniel's case. Hearts from Rhonda. Such a sweetheart. Stephen, the kid was an athlete who would have been a perfect cop. I wonder if he was set up. If you're talking about Daniel, absolutely he was set up. I think that's who you're talking about.
Oh
He was
yeah, I think so.
absolutely set up, and he was an athlete. I mean, he was all set to join the NFL. That didn't work out. So when that didn't work out, he chose his next favorite thing to do was to be a cop. And Daniel also, and not very many people know this, Daniel also had a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So, it wasn't that he became a cop with no knowledge whatsoever. Do you think he knew something about corruption? I really don't think it had. I don't think it had anything to do with what Daniel may or may not have known. I really don't. And like I said, if you haven't joined my Discord yet, Stephen, join the Discord, and I'll be happy to, we'll be happy to have some chats with you about some of those deeper things for sure. I don't believe he was. I don't think his being set up had anything to do with any knowledge of corruption he may or may not have had. Oklahoma has numerous judges being exposed for corruption. Yeah, we know that. Judges and district attorneys. They never had any semen samples from, no, they had nothing from Daniel. Nothing except for his DNA, his buccal swab. That was it. That was the only thing they had from Daniel. And in Dr. Silkman's, I think, just above there, Stephen, Catnet has dropped a link for a presentation that Dr. Silkman did on the DNA in Daniel's case. Definitely go watch that, because it shocked us. I mean, we all kind of felt like, we knew there was nothing to the DNA, but until we watched what Dr. Silkman presented, we were mind blown when we saw that. Yes. So, just about done here. I guess I know, TJ, your slow mo chat is way behind. Joke. I know. I'm sorry. I always do that. And being nearsighted. Okay. I agree it wasn't about attraction, it's power. I just saw the judge drinking with her 8-year-old grandson in the bar with her. Oh, geez. In Oklahoma?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the one me and Kay were talking about last week.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh my God,
yes.
that. It's
Good Lord.
I'll send you the video. It's crazy.
Yeah, send it to me. Well, also, there was just another Oklahoma judge who, I think she finally resigned. Again, nobody ever gets fucking fired. They just all get to resign, and it pisses me off. But the one who was doing the texting, she was sitting for a murder trial of some in Oklahoma, and she was texting with her bailiff or her court clerk, maybe both, and it went viral. And I can't remember her name, but it went viral, and the text messages between her and the other staff in the court went viral. And anyway, she ended up, just last week or the week before, I think I read that she resigned. But yeah, there were some of the people that we watch some of the lawyers that we watched, Lawyer and Emily D. Baker, and some of those. They were even talking about this Oklahoma judge that got busted texting during the murder trial, and it wasn't just like, hey, on next break, will you run and get me a cup of coffee? No, it was trashing the witnesses, making fun of the witnesses or different people in the courtroom, or this witness is lying. I mean, the judge is texting back and forth with this. Anyway, it's a whole thing. I'll see if I can find it and put it in my my Discord somewhere sometime. Supreme Court will review the Richard Glossop's case a second time, so definitely check that out. Glossop's case is very interesting. I know I've been coming across numerous Oklahoma judges in the news getting caught for corruption. I believe that. I heard one of the prosecutors said she was a victim of sexual assault by Henderson. I believe there was one of the prosecutors who said that, and if I'm not mistaken, 2 defense attorneys who also made that claim. But we don't hear about any of that anymore. That's all very been brushed under the rug or under the judge's bench, so to speak. So, but we haven't given up looking either. It's just not our main focus right now. Sheila, honestly, I find none credible yet. Neither do we. Stephen, I find that very suspicious. The victim couldn't pick him out. Because he wasn't the one who assaulted. I believe, and I've said this for probably a year and a half to 2 years now, I believe Sherry Ellis was sexually assaulted and raped by a cop. I really do. And I believe it was a black cop who was shorter than her and darker than her. I think that's a credible truth. I think it was made to be Daniel, and I think she was blindsided when I feel very much like during her deposition when she's crying, because she cried through just about the whole thing. I believe she feels like a piece of shit right now because she realizes that I think, got tricked into blaming Daniel. That's just my opinion. I blame the media for these racial hoaxes along with the judicial system. Me too. I detest the mainstream media. I don't watch it. It's disgusting to me. If you like podcasts, yes, thank you very much, Sheila, for talking about Bates Investigates. Amazing podcast and breakdown of this case. I'm curious who was the first accuser of Daniel. This seems like an organized setup. I'm wondering if Daniel knew something about corruption. No, again, I don't think it has anything to do with that. I know this is making me sound like I'm just promoting something here, and I'm really not, but I don't really want it's not that I don't want, I could talk about it for hours and hours, obviously. I mean, like right now I'm in so much pain, my head hurts, but I still can't stop talking about it because I'm so passionate about it. But the first accuser was Janie Liggins. And that's where probably 2.5 or 3 months ago, 9 episodes from tonight, 9 episodes ago, so 9 weeks ago, I started completely over with this case, and starting with Janie Liggins, who was the first accuser. Listen, there's no other way to say this, but go back and start watching from then. Go back to the very beginning of when we started over 9 weeks ago, and then just catch up, because you're going to learn a lot just doing that, Stephen. I appreciate you so much being here and asking questions and making comments, but that's the easiest way that I can help you understand more. The 70s and 80s comment. Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that very much. 2 year. Yeah, Jack's gonna find that for me and put that in the chat for me in my Discord. Discord keeps me confused. I'm so sorry. Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Okay, I've already gone an hour and 24 minutes, and I've done all of the talking, which I said I couldn't do. But I am going to let Jack and Cherie now go through these slides and read them out to you guys. And I'll try to just, you guys split these slides up between the two of you if you would. I can't. I spent all my talking just reading chat and answering questions. I'm sorry. That's going to be okay.
Huh. No problem.
Okay. So we're going to start with the slides, and I'll watch the chat for questions and things.
All righty. Thursday, July 24, 2014. On 7/24/14, Detective Holman and I began looking for Sherry Ellis. Detective Gregory wanted her contacted in reference to this case. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, Detective Gregory was scheduled for a 2-week vacation, so he gave me Sherry's information to see if I could contact her. Around this date, Detective Rocky Gregory leaves for a 2-week vacation, possibly July 28th through August 10. Hold on here. This is not doing right. Let me go back here.
Does that help?
I'm reading off my own slides.
Oh, okay, okay.
On Thursday, July 24, 2014, on 7/24/14, Detective Holman and I went to 2258 Northeast 16th Terrace. This was Sherry's last listed address in Verona. Curtis Jones was in front of the house. He advised he is the landlord of the residence. He confirmed Sherry lives at this address with her boyfriend, Terry Mack. He said Terry is in a wheelchair. Curtis said he would give Terry and Sherry my card and have them call me. I think I can do it that way.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Number 4. Monday, July 28th. On 7/28/14, I called several numbers. I called several numbers listed in Verona looking for Terry Mack. Terry Mack Jr. called me back because he received a call from my number. He advised his father is the person I am looking for and confirmed he is in a wheelchair. He knows Sherry, but hasn't seen her in a long time.
Ooh, that's really so. Just let me just tell you guys too, in the chat. These a lot of these things are going to be emails that we were able to get our hands on. Not that they are confusing, but it's going to reference other cases of accusers that might not make sense, but these are all related to Sherry in some way. So.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, July 30th, 2014. Quote, we have 2 women we would like to talk to in reference to the Holtzclaw investigation. One is Stacey Ellis, and the other is Kayla Lyles. Kayla was chosen because she was run by Holtzclaw right before the traffic stop on our second victim. There is no other reason except she was ran before he made his traffic stop. The second person is Stacey Ellis. She was chosen because he ran her name approximately 6 times in the last few months, and there is only one entry in Verona that said she was a quote-unquote suspected prostitute. Kim has checked all addresses associated with her, and she has made contact with her mother. Kayla has not been seen by her family, but her mother has talked to her twice in the past few weeks. Kayla was given contact information for Kim, but she has failed to call her back. The mother has called both times she has talked to her daughter. There are no addresses or phone numbers for her. The mother has no idea where she is staying or where she is calling from. This is one of two. Wednesday, July 30th, 2014. Stacy so far is a ghost. Yeah, this is an email. Yeah, from Munsey to Davis and
Also, sorry,
the
really
gang.
quick. Also, here they're saying Stacy Ellis, but it's Sherry Ellis. They don't even know her name. They couldn't even get her name right. But it's not Stacy, it's Sherry. Dumbasses.
Crazy. Yeah, really. Sherry is so far as a ghost. We have not been able to locate anyone who knows her. Contact cards have been left, and the people calling back have said they don't know her. I sent an email to Vice, Gang Unit, and Criminal Intel on Monday. They all received the email, and Vice ran a check on them through their system. So far, nothing turned up. Criminal Intel is also looking into the names. They will notify me if they find anything. The Gang Unit has been busy looking for a homicide suspect, so they have not looked for them yet. They will be on the east side today. They will send me an email on what if anything they find. As stated earlier, we have nothing that says either of these women are victims. We're just going off of the investigators' hunches in red. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to let Cherie read some?
Yep.
Thursday, July 31st, 2014. Based on a list provided by Lieutenant Kimberlin on 7/31/14, Detective Holman and I went to the following addresses: 1401 Northeast 37th, 5201 North Post Road, 5424 Broadway Street, 5729 Marshall Street, 11248 Northeast 41, 322 Jones Spencer Road. No luck locating Sherry Ellis. Facebook page to find some associates. I found she is related to Vernon Starr. I contacted him at work. He said he talks to Sherry every day. I explained to him that I needed her to contact me and gave him my number. He said he would give her the message. When do the frantic messages from Sherry, which Detective Davis referred to, happen? Detective Davis had said, "You sound frantic in your messages." That was on Friday, August 1st.
And what is just got said right there, you sounded frantic in your messages. You can jump ahead if you want and go listen to it in Bates Investigates podcast if you want. It's also going to be a part of my video premiere that I'm going to do schedule for probably Sunday sometime, but you can go listen to it. I have pictures. Sorry.
Friday, August 1st. Sherry Ellis is contacted on the phone by Detective Kim Davis. Brief interview is audio recorded. Ellis says it was a black officer. Sherry Ellis, on August 5th, Sherry Ellis is interviewed in person at OCPD Sex Crimes Office. Claims her attacker is a short black man. Tuesday, August 5th, Detective Gregory and I took Sherry on the route she took when the officer picked her up and assaulted her. Detective Gregory took the pictures. Detectives failed to record this interview. Whoops.
That's in. So when you see that, like it says OCPD 14-066614 parentheses 003, that's part of the police report for
that's where
Sherry
you
Ellis's
find it.
Police report.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Thank you.
Wednesday, August 13th, 2014. On 8/13/14, Sergeant Hill sent me the AVL for Sherry Ellis from the different locations for Officer Holtzclaw for 5/7/14 between the hours of 1:03:13 to 1:19. Wednesday, August 13th, 2014. Sherry Louise Ellis, victim. Varuna search, Detective Gregory. In going through Daniel Holtzclaw's Varuna records searches for possible leads, the following was found. On 5/7/14 at 57 hours, Sherry Louise Michelle. Oh, so this is what he had looked up on Varuna.
Yeah.
Also on 5/7 at 19:23 hours, and on May 8th at 16:25 hours, he had looked her up. And Terry Morris 3 times on May 8th, and then Sherry again on May 8th. As noted, Sherry Ellis was found to be ran by Daniel Holtzclaw 4 times on work shifts. This was during the same 24 hours period that Terry Morris had been sexually assaulted by him. See case number 1441539. Detective Gregory left for vacation for 2 weeks. This information was passed to Detective Davis, who was working a related case for victim Liggins.
Wow. That paragraph, this is during the same time, 24-hour period, or 24 hours period that Terry Morris had been sexually assaulted by him. She never said that. That was Detective. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and they reference getting, we got this from Varuna and that from Varuna. Well, maybe that's why he was looking at Varuna, to get information, intel or whatever, or information to.
And Kay explains that really well,
Yeah.
right, Cherie? She
Yeah.
explains it really well, why, and there's actually some proof for another officer that we just uncovered a couple of days ago that led us down a rabbit hole, but anyway, for a different topic. But Kay explains really well why it shows, and I think even Bates even explains it, why there are so many times that you see not just Daniel, but any officer, honestly, who is looking through Varuna. That's where they're getting their intel and their information about, certain people. And once you leave Varuna to go look up something else that is offered in Varuna, then when you come back to continue your, gathering of your intel, you have to log in again, and it shows a whole new search for that person. I don't know if I explained that well, Jack.
You did. Yeah, you did.
Okay.
And in the depositions of some of the officers, they say that, that Varuna is for, where all the information about prior arrests and stuff like that is, and prior interactions with other police officers. So it's a way to learn about a person that you're keeping an eye on, like for suspicious activity and stuff like that. I don't know how to word it, but
that's exactly right.
You got it. They go there to look up information,
To look up intel, which is part of their job, number one. Number two, officers are also able to, that's where the officers input intel or information that they get. Yep. So throughout Daniel's trial and throughout all the cases, they make it sound like him looking up certain people or women like 4 times in one night, within 3-hour period of time. They make it sound like he's like stalking them and being dirty and whatever. And it's nothing like that at all. It is a normal practice of police work.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Sheree.
Once we have her name on certain dates in Unit 800, we will get lineup AVL info for each date. We have gotten the AVL information for Sherry Ellis on May 7th. It shows Holtzclaw's vehicle in the area, but it doesn't show him at 0 speeds for very long. On this case, he jumped the curb, which defeats the AVL. AVL doesn't show him going across the field by the school. The AVL shows his speed to the curb, then nothing, then it shows him going 9 miles an hour out the other side. After talking with Joe, this blank area can be explained and goes along with what victim Ellis has said. This is an email from Denise Wenzel to Johnny Coleman. Denise was, I think, a major, and Johnny was deputy chief.
Johnny was, he was like the upper, he was like, I think the highest ranking in that office. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Let's see, it's so hard to see. It's pretty small. Let me do that. I don't know if that'll help or not, but
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
This is on August 18th. Update with new victim 8. We're now up to 8. Terry Morris, 5814, stopped while walking from apartments 26 Phillips, oral sex. Janie Liggins, 61814, stopped on traffic northeast 50th and Lincoln, oral sex. Sherry Ellis, 5714, stopped while walking 16 Miramar area, taken to school and raped, oral sex, then rape at school. Florine Mathis, April, question mark, walking in 17 to 18, Kate, grabbed her breast, sexual battery. Carla Johnson, 32514, stopped by officer, twice assaulted, second time 14th Kellum, sexual battery, grabbed her breast, then put hands down her pants, touched vagina. Tabitha Barnes, 32514, stopped in front of her house on 15th and Kate, sexual battery, touched her breast, then has been at her house. Rosetta Gray, April, question mark, went to address and spoke with her father. He said she was assaulted. She was given contact info and has not returned calls, using a CI to locate. Number 8, Carla Raines, walking in the area of 16 Fonzel, stopped and she felt forced to show her breasts. Indecent exposure. Rocky located Carla Raines today. She's another prostitute. She was walking in the area of 16th Fonzel when she was approached by Holtzclaw. He did not touch her. He only had her lift up her shirt and expose her breasts. Rocky asked Galen about this, and they are going to take indecent exposure every time he had them do something like this. Signed, Tim Musney.
Tim Musney is just as he's more dirty because he's the one who started this list, and we're going to talk about the list. Rather, Brian Bates is going to talk about the list in the premiere that I'm going to show, because it gets crazy about this list in trial. So just letting you guys know. Jack, do you want to take over reading a few?
Sure. September 12, 2014. Detective Kim Davis calls Edwin Smith, Sherry Ellis' boyfriend. He also states Ellis claimed her attacker was a black male cop that's always in the area. Okay.
Weird, huh?
Yeah. September 12th, 2014. After Ellis was interviewed, OCPD David Gell, is that right? Gell?
Jaylee.
OCPD David Jelly is asked to locate via AVL whomever DH may have encountered at the abandoned school. This is when accuser Regina Copeland is identified as a possible victim. Okay. September 15th, 2014. Terry Mack, Sherry Ellis' other boyfriend, is interviewed by Detective Kim Davis. And it looks like we got a police report coming up here. July 24th, 2014. Can you read this out?
No,
Yep.
this, well, just because
Tricky.
we kind of talked about why an officer would look the same person up so many times, it
Yeah.
does. Go ahead and read that if you don't mind.
Oh, the body of the report?
Yes, just the body.
Yeah, this is dated. Report's dated 8/5/2014. Detective Gregory checked Verona records in an attempt to find other possible victims of Officer Holtzclaw. Detective Gregory found that Officer Holtzclaw ran Sherry through Verona on 5/7. It looks like numerous times. A little after midnight, 7:23. Then the next day, on the 8th, the 16:25, that would be 4:25. And then at 23:43, right before midnight. I checked crime information sheets and found Officer Holtzclaw ran Sherry through the crime information unit on 5/7/14, sometime after 011 hours, and she had 3 city warrants. He also ran her on 5/7/14 during during 2 shifts. Crime information sheets do not document the times when a person is checked. CIU documented info from last night in the disposition column. On 7/24/14, Detective Holman and I began looking for Sherry Ellis. Detective Gregory wanted her contacted in reference to this case. Detective Gregory was scheduled for a 2-week. Okay, we read about his 2-week vacation. Just go on, Rocky. Get out of here. Okay, next slide. This one is dated July 24th, 2014. Detectives jumped on me. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Detectives Davis and Holman began looking for Sherry Ellis because Detective Gregory wanted her located in reference to this case. Davis said since Gregory was on vacation for 2 weeks, he asked if I could contact her. Davis stated, quote, Sherry had a listed address of 1500 Northeast 19th Street and left a card on the door. Davis and Holman went to the last address listed in Verona, it's listed there, where they met the landlord, Curtis Johnson, who confirmed Ellis lived there with boyfriend Terry Mack. Johnson said he would give Ellis and Mack their card and have them call her. Okay, next slide. This is July 28th. Seems like we went backwards here. Can you hear me?
Sorry. I was trying to unmute and that wasn't working. So it in the timeline of things, it kind of does go backwards. What we were reading before was, the emails and stuff, but
I see. I got you. I understand now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Kim Davis called several numbers in Verona looking for Terry Mack. Terry Mack Jr. returned her call and said, quote, my father is the person you were looking for, end quote. He told Davis he knows Ellis but hasn't seen her in a long time since she is no longer dating his father. He said his dad no longer lives on 16th Terrace. He didn't want to give his father's contact info. He asked them not to contact him because he has had a stroke and is in poor health. He said he would call if he learned the whereabouts of Ellis. And then we have another, looks like report. This is July 31st, 2014. On 7/29/2014, Lieutenant Kimberlin sent me a, wait, I've missed something here. Kimberlin gave Detective Davis a printout of the phone numbers and addresses. Okay. On 7/29/14, Lieutenant Kimberlin sent me a possible address for Sherry Ellis, 1401 Northeast 37th Street. There were several phone numbers on the printout listed there, and looks like a bunch of them are disconnected. On 7/31/14, Detective Holman and I went to the following addresses, and got them listed there. 1401 Northeast 37th. Brady family for 3 years, never heard of her. 5201 North Post. Henderson family, 30 years, never heard of her. 5424 Broadway Street. Murray family, Sherry lived there for 4 years ago. Hasn't heard from her since 5729 Marshall Street, vacant home. 11248 Northeast 41, house is gone. And then this last one on Spencer Road, bad address. Interesting. Okay, this is another report dated August 1st. Detective Davis sent Sherry Ellis a message on Facebook. On 8/1/2014, I sent Sherry a message on Facebook. I also used her Facebook page to find some associates. I found she is related to Vernon Starr. I contacted him at work. He said he talks to Sherry every day. I explained to him that I needed to talk to her, I needed her to contact me, and gave him my number. He said he would give her the message. Sherry called me back. I recorded the phone conversation. I told Sherry I had received a tip that she might have been sexually assaulted by a police officer. She said she had and started to go into what happened. She gave me the following information. About 3 months ago, she was walking near Northeast 16th Terrace and Highland. An officer stopped her on Highland and put her in the back seat of the police car. He checked her and she had city warrants. Sherry thought he used the police radio to check her. The officer kept saying, quote, "What are we going to do about that?" end quote. The officer was standing over her while she was sitting in the scout car. Okay, scout car, that's interesting. She looked up and his penis was in her face. He put it in her mouth for a little bit. He got back into his car and drove her to a park located at Northeast 16th and Miramar. He made her get out of the car and pull her pants down. He made her bend over and he sexually assaulted her. When he was done, she walked away. She went home and immediately told her husband. Sherry and I scheduled an interview for 8/5/14 at 16:30 hours. And that's reporting officer Kim Davis. Talked by Davis and approved by Musney. Okay.
We'll play the in the video that I'm going to premiere this weekend. You'll get to see this in-person interview with Sherry Ellis and Kim Davis. Sorry, go ahead, Jack.
No problem. August 5th, 2014.
Do you want to keep reading or do you want a break?
Oh no, I'll read another. I'll read just. Okay. You tell me when to switch.
No, you let Sherry know when you want to switch.
Okay. All right. I'll read a couple more, then we'll switch. Sherry Ellis in-person interview with Kim Davis. Okay. Next slide. Dated August 5th, 2014. Sherry believes the rapes occurred about 3 or 4 months ago, around April or May of 2014. Just prior to midnight, Ellis walks out of her house on 2200 block of Northeast 16th Terrace, where she lived with her boyfriend of about 19 years, Terry Mack. Ellis is heading to her female cousin, Dion's house, which is about 4 blocks away.
My personal opinion, just mine, not speaking for Kay, Sherry, or anybody else on the team. I think that she was headed to Edwin's house, Edwin Smith. I just put a couple of comments in the chat and highlighted them. She may have been going to her cousin Dion's house. I can't prove that she wasn't. But her boyfriend is Edwin Smith. So her common law husband was Terry Mack, and that's where she lived. That's who she lived with on 16th Terrace Street. Edwin Smith's mom lived somewhere around that area, and you'll hear that in the video that we'll show in this premiere, you'll hear her say that. I don't think she was headed to a cousin's house. I think that she was, when she first left the house where she lived with Carrie Mack, I think she left that house and was headed back to Edwin Smith's house. That's just my opinion. And I don't even have anything to back that up, just my own, thoughts. So
Right.
take that for
Personal
what it's
feelings.
worth.
All right. I think also on August 5th, she says she walks westbound on Northeast 16th to the first intersection. She then heads northbound on North Highland Drive. She continues walking in the dark past Northeast 16th Street and then Northeast 17th Street. She turns and sees the approaching headlights and sees it's a police car that is slowing down. She describes the patrol car as the black and white older model that most officers drove at the time. The patrol car stops and the officer gets out. She remembers that she was stopped while walking next to a crepe myrtle tree that is on Highland Drive between 17th and 18th Street. All right, Sharif, you want to take over?
She describes him as shorter than her. She's 5'11" and black with skin darker than her own. He asks her to walk to the back of his patrol car. He then asks her for her name, if she has any ID, and if she has anything illegal in the purse. Ellis says no. When he searches her, she states that his hand touches her breast, buttocks, and vagina over her clothing. He opens the back door of the patrol car door and directs her to take a seat. He sits in the driver's seat and called her in to see if she had any warrants. She can see that her prior prostitution charge was pulled up on the officer's patrol car computer screen. Within a few minutes, the dispatcher tells him she has 3 outstanding city warrants. She says that he then gets out and walks back to her and opens the door and asks, "What do you think we need to do about this?" She does not understand and asks if he's going to take her to jail. She then says that suddenly his erect penis is out through the fly of his pants and in her face. He tells her to put his penis in her mouth, and because she's afraid, she does as he asks for about 3 or 4 minutes. He suddenly stops, removes it from her mouth, tells her to turn and put her feet back in the car and shuts the door. He gets back in the driver's seat and begins to drive away. He takes the first right and heads eastbound on Northeast 18th Street. At the end of Northeast 18th Street is the abandoned school. She says he jumps the curb and parks behind the school near an old outbuilding. She states that he then gets out of the car, opens her door, and tells her to step out. He directs her to pull her pants down and bend over. She does as he instructs her. He then vaginally rapes her for about 10 minutes. He does not speak, and she does not know whether he wore a condom or if he ejaculated. She then said when he was done, he told her to have a nice night and got back in the car. He then drove away through the schoolyard, leaving her standing there. She walked between 2 of the buildings and headed straight back to her house. When she arrived at home, she told her boyfriend, Terry Mack, that she had just been raped by a black OKC police officer. Mr. Mack told her to report the crime and have a SANE exam done, but Sherry refused. When Mr. Mack became suspicious, she admitted she also had sex with someone else that day. Mr. Mack said the SANE exam would do no good because there would be mixed DNA and they would not be able to identify the officer's DNA. Mr. Mack also stated that because she used to be a prostitute, they wouldn't believe her anyway. She does not report the rape, but was afraid to leave the house after dark. She and Mr. Mack broke up because of her infidelity a couple weeks later. She moved out and began living with her new boyfriend, Edwin Smith, in a hotel room. Davis then used buccal swabs to sample Sherry's DNA. Davis and Gregory then took her to retrace her route and take photographs of the locations of the alleged assaults. They then worked to prove that Daniel was her assailant. August 13th, 2014. Back in July of 2014, Rocky Gregory had discovered that Daniel had run Sherry Ellis through Varuna database 4 times on May 7th and 8th of 2014. This fact meant that Daniel may have had contact with Sherry within the 3 or 4 month timeline she had estimated. Kim Davis requested copies of Daniel's AVL printout for the dates he had run Sherry through the Varuna database. On August 13th, 2014, she received a printout from Joe Hill. The AVL printout appears to match the approximate date, time, locations, and route Sherry had described. According to Daniel's AVL, he was parked on North Highland Drive between Northeast 17th Street and Northeast 18th Street for approximately 15 minutes from 12:58 a.m. until 1:13 a.m. on the morning of May 8th, 2014. At 1:13 a.m., Daniel's patrol car is recorded heading eastbound on Northeast 18th Street, approaching the dead end. There's a 4-minute gap in the AVL pings. At 1:18, Daniel's vehicle reappears and is next recorded driving northbound on Miramar Boulevard. Miramar is a north-south street which runs along the east side of the school property. On August 14th, Detective Davis and Holman go to Carla Johnson's house at 1807 Northeast 25th without a recorder to leave a card, but when Carla answered the door, they interviewed her without recording the interview. According to Johnson, she was told they had been informed that she had been sexually assaulted by a police officer.
I don't mean to correct you, but it's important that we point out that they had been informed that she had been sexually assaulted by one of their police officers.
Oh, yeah.
Very important. Sorry, I'm not trying to correct you, but that's very important because they're already prejudicing this alleged witness or accuser.
I actually missed that too when Sherry was reading that. I totally missed it. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I guess I've heard it so many times that I said
It's true. It's true.
What was on the.
It's true. It's just because that's very important, and they don't say that with all of the accusers. And Rocky's actually the worst, but
no.
And listen, to those of you in chat who don't already know this, I despise every single person that's on the state side of this case. The investigators, the detectives, the lieutenants, the higher ups in sex. I detest every single one of them. And as horrible and disgusting as Kim Davis is, I despise Rocky Gregory the absolute most. He is a foul, vile, lying piece of shit.
Yeah, he shouldn't even be dog catcher. Neither should Kim either, but.
And sorry, Jack, I got things in my head right now. I really,
gotta get them out.
After this case was over, Kim Davis retired very soon after the case was ended. The trial was over and Daniel was convicted. She retired, and this terrifies me. And if you live in Oklahoma County or anywhere else, I would think in Oklahoma, you should also be terrified about this. Rocky Gregory was moved from sex crimes to homicide. He currently works in the homicide division now in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I had to get him out of that sex crimes unit. God.
Be very afraid.
No
Okay, I'm
doubt.
sorry. Go ahead, Cherie.
Kim Davis to Sherry. Oh, these are inconsistencies.
Yep.
Yep. Kim Davis to Sherry. I know what officer did this to you. Detective Davis has already determined that it must be Daniel Holtzclaw, but they don't even present her with a photo lineup. Ellis never names her attacker. Sherry said her attacker was black and drove the older model patrol car. No photo lineup of Oklahoma City police vehicles were shown. She already indicated her attacker was driving the more common, older black and white patrol car. They know Holtzclaw was driving the more rare, all-black model.
Again, they just blow right past this. They blow right past this very important detail that Sherry Ellis gives, and Tabitha Barnes gives this similar description of the car, and so does Terry Morris.
Well, and
they
description
blow
of
right
and
past.
a description of Daniel. I mean,
Yeah,
how can that
yeah.
how can he have been convicted? I shake my head. I don't understand it at all.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
they
that
blow.
those bright police lights. They wash out. They make
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot
make
they
you
wash out the
forget on.
collar. Yeah,
Make
my
you
bad.
Forget about the lights, the strobe
My
lights.
bad. My bad,
Oh.
Sheree. Yeah, right.
But just remember that three of these women described the black and white old Crown Vic as the vehicle that the officer who assaulted them was driving, and Daniel drove the newer Ford Interceptor, not the black, and that is all black with white Oklahoma City letters on it.
Right.
Huge red flag to me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
At trial, Detective Davis gives a very incriminating reason for why she thinks Holtzclaw was running Ellis through the computer database multiple times. From page 3078 of the jury trial transcript, Prosecutor Galen Giger says, "Is it significant to you as a detective as to what a police officer or why a police officer would run somebody through Verona without coming into contact with them as a patrol officer to try to like the normal reasons for it?" Detective Davis: "Yes." Giger: "What's significant about it to you as a detective in this case?" Detective Davis: "He's looking to see if she's made a report."
Oh my God.
Again, I have to break in and say this. There is no way, and I can't remember, I think this is brought out in trial, or it's brought out by Brian Bates in his podcast, one of his episodes.
It's in Bates. I don't know. It's probably in the trial too, but
it's in Bates, yeah. But detective says he's looking to see if she made a report. That is impossible. No, none of the officers can see it via Veruna if somebody has made a report against them. They can't. That's not what Veruna is for. They cannot see if Sherry Ellis called or went into the station in Oklahoma City and made a report about anything. They just can't see it. It's not part of what that system does. Those kinds of reports that are made against officers, whether it's a use of force complaint, a civil rights violation complaint, he looked at me funny complaint, it doesn't matter what the complaint is. If a citizen makes a complaint against an officer, that complaint, that report is sent to an entirely different system that only certain levels of law enforcement are able to view. And patrol officers were not able to see if somebody made a report. So for Kim Davis to say that under oath during the trial pisses me off, because she knows damn good and well that that is a lie. But you know what? The jury heard this. This is what the jury heard. That pisses me off among everything else. This one really sets me off because it's such a blatant lie.
But police reports against other officers are not treated the same as police reports against citizens. If they were, then every officer would be tipped off about internal affairs investigations. Instead, reports incriminating of police officers are kept extremely confidential. Those reports often only exist as super secret special investigations database known only by the code name Orion, and access to Orion is extremely controlled and limited. Daniel Holtzclaw or any other patrol officer would ever have access to this database. In reality, Holtzclaw often ran known criminals and suspects through the police databases looking for intel as to what was going on in the areas he patrolled. Terry Mack Sr., Sherry's ex-boyfriend, and Edwin Smith, her current boyfriend, statements are inconsistent with Sherry's story. For one, Edwin Smith claims that Sherry was assaulted not walking from the home that she shares with Terry Mack, but while walking to her cousin's from his house after they had just had sex. Sherry says her cousin only lives 4 blocks from Terry Mack's house. That would have put her in initial contact with Holtzclaw very near her cousin's home. However, at trial, Sherry claims that the cousin lives at Highland and Northeast 22nd. That's twice as far, at 8 blocks away. Sherry and Holtzclaw did make contact with each other on North Highland Drive, somewhere between Northeast 17th and Northeast 18th Street. Not just before midnight like Sherry Ellis claims, but instead just before 1 a.m. Daniel's AVL tells us this as well as his radio call-in. 2:55 to 3:35, Holtzclaw out of the car. 4:17 back in the car.
I was going to see if there was a link for me to play the call. I'll sneak that radio traffic call into the video that I'm making for you guys to listen to. Carry on.
This radio call-in is another example, just like with Terry Morris, that patrol car GPS is not needed to establish Holtzclaw has made contact with his accusers. He literally calls most of them in from his patrol car. He doesn't try to hide the fact that he's made contact with each and every accuser. This radio traffic uncovers a discrepancy with Sherry's reported sequence of events. She claimed that the officer placed her in his vehicle, then he returned to the driver's side and radioed in her information. Allegedly, he then looked up her previous prostitution charge that she claimed she saw on his computer. She said he then received a call back from dispatch that she had active city warrants. Sherry stated that this all took place while the officer sat in the driver's seat of his patrol car. This is all clearly prior to Sherry being allegedly forced to perform oral sex on the officer. It's obvious through the radio traffic I just played that Holtzclaw was out of his patrol car and didn't realize dispatch had 3 times tried to reach him. At trial, Detective Davis agrees with that assessment. This from page 3104 of the jury trial transcript. Prosecutor Galen Giger, was that significant to you, ma'am? Detective Kim Davis, yes. Giger, why? Detective Davis, because he's out of the car. I mean, when you call crime information and your number, you wait until your turn and then you call it in and he's gotten out of the car. What was Holtzclaw doing during this time? We don't know. According to Ellis, what he wasn't doing at that moment was assaulting her or even out of his patrol car. She never suggests that radio dispatch kept calling for the officer and the officer ignored those calls. Yet at trial, Kim Davis tried to insinuate to the jury that this was suspicious and Daniel must have been up to no good. Instead, it should have been a clue that Sherry's story wasn't adding up, or at least needed additional clarification. At trial, Kim Davis made it sound like Daniel used the accuser's warrants to coerce them into performing sex acts for him. But Sherry's warrants were for unpaid city tickets. They were not for felony crimes or any other offense that police policy would have required Daniel to take her to jail. So the fact that he did not take Sherry to jail means nothing. Sherry was sitting in the back seat while Daniel was calling in and waiting for her records to be reported, yet failed to see that Daniel was white, not black. No evidence or exhibits were ever presented at trial that Holtzclaw ever accessed Sherry's previous prostitution arrest and conviction record. Yet not only does Sherry claim that he didn't step out of his car during this time, but that she clearly saw him pull up her prostitution records. Yet somehow she missed the fact that the officer doing all of this was not a dark-skinned black man, but instead an officer who was pale white in complexion. This from page 3116 of the jury trial transcript. Holtzclaw's defense attorney, Scott Adams, said, "And Miss Ellis, at this point in time, did have some warrants, correct?" Detective Kim Davis, "Yes." Adams, "Again, they were municipal warrants that aren't of any great significance to an Oklahoma City Police Department, correct?" Detective Davis, "Correct." Adams, "And it would not be unusual whatsoever for a patrol officer not to take someone in on a warrant such as that, correct?" Detective Davis, "Correct."
Are you ready for a break, Sherry?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Jack, do you want to read or shall I read some now?
Entirely up to you. If you want to read something, go for it.
Well, if you're up to reading it, I would be happy to let you do that.
Sure, I'll read. Okay. At trial, Sherry changes her story to cast Holtzclaw in a more negative light. During her interview with Detective Davis, that she was clear that Holtzclaw only touched her during the search on top of her clothing. Detective Kim Davis, "So, did he touch your vagina on the outside of your pants?" Sherry Ellis, "Mm-hmm." Detective Davis, "Did he touch your bottom on the outside of your pants?" Sherry Ellis, "Yeah." Detective Davis, "Okay." From pages 2985 to 2986 of the jury trial transcript, Prosecutor Lori McConnell, "And tell me about the officer's actions in searching you." Sherry Ellis, "When he searched me, he went up under my shirt and he was just feeling up underneath my breast." Miss McConnell, "With his hands?" Ellis, "Yes, ma'am." Miss McConnell, "And I don't want to embarrass you, Miss Ellis. Were you wearing a bra that day?" Ellis, "Yes, ma'am." McConnell, "Did his hands go on the outside of your bra or on the inside of your bra or on the outside?" Ellis, "In the inside." McConnell, "So were his hands touching the skin of your breast at that time?" Ellis, "Yes, ma'am." McConnell, "Was he saying anything to you whenever he did that?" Ellis, "No." McConnell, "What happened next?" Ellis, he started to go downwards in front of me. He put his hands inside my pants and felt between my legs." McConnell, "Okay, and whenever he put his hands inside your pants, are you wearing underwear on that date, Miss Ellis?" Ellis, "Yes, ma'am." McConnell, "Did his hands go on the inside of your underwear?" Alice, yes, ma'am. McConnell, in what part of your body did they touch, Miss Ellis? Ellis, he touched my vagina. Jeannie Liggins, Terry Morris, and now Sherry all claim Daniel was able to instantaneously expose his erect penis without any forewarning, fidgeting, or delay. We know Holtzclaw wears compression shorts with no fly, a long undershirt, a ballistics vest with a flap that hangs below his groin, and shirt stays that are attached to the top of his socks that held his uniform shirt in place below his groin. So quite a magician there to get out of that, kind of a Houdini thing to get out of it in an instant.
And literally to just, with all of the accusers who allegedly saw his penis in their face, they all just say it was just there. Did he unzip his pants? I don't know. It was just there. Did he take his belt off, his gun belt off? No, he didn't take his gun belt off. Did he unbutton his pants? No, he didn't unzip his pants. And his penis was just there. It just magically fucking appears every time.
Yep. That's right. Okay, yet all three accusers up to this point claim their face was only inches from his groin, and they were never even able to see him reach down and unzip his pants. Why would Daniel or any officer force someone to perform a very public oral sex on them while parked on a neighborhood street with homes literally facing in every direction at that time of night? The presence of his patrol car would have drawn attention of anyone outside or looking through their window. Furthermore, why would he risk being caught at that location if he simply planned to take Ellis to a more remote location just minutes later? At the initial stop on Highland, at no time does Sherry ever say that the officer who attacked her turned on his overhead strobe lights. Yet Detective Davis conveniently uses those strobe lights as an excuse as to why she may have described her attackers as a dark-skinned black male. Oh my God.
Just for those of you who are still watching, just let that sink in.
That makes absolutely no sense at all. These are Kim Davis's words when she first, I guess, talked to Sherry. Detective Kim Davis, I have received a tip on. I work in sex crimes, and I've been working some cases, and I received a tip that you may have been sexually assaulted by a police officer. Sherry Ellis, yes, I have. At trial, Sherry described how Detective Davis approached her differently. Page 2998 of the jury trial transcript, defense attorney Scott Adams, quote, and when they contacted you, they told you that they were investigating a sexual assault on you by an Oklahoma City police officer. Ellis, no, they didn't say it like that. She said she was there, an incident that happened with a police officer. Adams, did they tell you that they had a tip that you were assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer? Ellis, I don't recall that. In fact, that statement by Detective Davis isn't even true. She hadn't received a tip at all. Ellis's name simply appeared on an arbitrary list provided to her by Lieutenant Musney, where he listed every black female Daniel had stopped between January 1st, 2014 and June 18, 2014. Narrow the list to those who had a criminal history, substance abuse issues, and/or involvement in prostitution. Kim Davis also apparently told everyone she came into contact with while trying to locate Sherry Ellis, essentially contaminating any chance of getting a truly unrehearsed interview from Sherry. She was disclosing extremely personal information to uninvolved parties, including her ex-boyfriend's son, Terry Mack Jr., and Sherry's friends and family on Facebook. In addition, Jenny Liggins had already gone public with her accusation on the evening news. The dissemination of such information was almost certain to have an effect on any accuser's honesty. Kim Davis also apparently told everyone she came into contact with while trying to... Did I already read that?
Yeah, this is the next one. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't click down far enough. Okay, sorry about that. Sherry stated that the rape at the park lasted 5 or 10 minutes, but based on the GPS records, after Daniel's car jumped the curb, less than 4 minutes, 3 minutes and 49 seconds to be precise, passed until the car was back on the street. Within that time, he has to park his car, exit his car, check for any witnesses, order Ellis out of the car, pull down her pants, then badger rape her from behind. Then he put himself back together, get in his car, and accelerate away. For the prosecution's theory to be true, Holtzclaw would have had to have instantly accelerated to 65 miles per hour to cover that distance and park before his patrol car was pinged again, at night, off-road, in a park, with multiple obstacles and aided only by one's own headlights. And last slide. Daniel Holtzclaw trial.
This is excuse me. Yes, this is the last slide. Everybody pay really close attention. If you haven't paid attention to anything else, pay very close attention to this last slide as Jack reads it out. Please.
Factoid number 1. Accuser Sherry Ellis, a convicted felon prostitute, claimed she was raped by a quote-unquote short black police officer that often patrolled her area. Holtzclaw, at 6'2", tall and pale, was convicted in December of 2015 of Ellis's accusations, despite her description of her attacker and her inability to pick Holtzclaw out as her attacker in the courtroom. In October of 2016, OKC police officer Alexander Edwards was arrested for soliciting prostitution and tipping off a prostitute to a national undercover sting targeting sex trafficking. Officer Edwards is both quote-unquote short and black. According to page 3094 of Holtzclaw's trial transcript, Edwards was on patrol only a few blocks away the night of Ellis's alleged rape. Ellis was never shown a mugshot lineup containing Holtzclaw or Edwards photos. Let that sink in.
Yeah. So that was an excellent presentation. I probably should have just not said anything at all in the beginning and just let you guys read those slides, because really, although it might seem confusing, when you include some of the emails and some of the other names of other accusers and dates and things, it might seem confusing, but it will all come together, I promise, and it will make sense. And if you're outraged now or angry or upset or pissed off, you'll be even more so when when we get to the meat of this whole thing. It is just thank you, Jack and Sherry, so much for reading all those slides. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, you bet. Glad to help.
Yeah, it just whoops, didn't need to do that. So if you're late and you missed this when I first announced it, the video that I've been working on to prepare, it's taken, from Bates Investigates podcast, because honestly, that's the most accurate information out there at this point. They all made it to trial, Joffrey. They all went to trial. All 13 of them went to trial. So, unfortunately, all 13 of those accusers were held in one trial.
Keep in mind, though, correct me here, guys, because I'm going to get the number wrong, but wasn't there, in reality, in the beginning, 22 alleged accusers?
Yeah,
21, 22?
there were 21 accusers, if I'm not 21 or 22. I feel like it was 21. Either way, it doesn't matter. Might as well have been 222 at this rate. But yeah, there were 21 or 22. And like Joffrey has said here, one of them was a male who pretty quickly admitted that he lied. He just wanted to get the guy in trouble. Just wanted to be just stir the pot, be a dickhole and be a part of something, and it was horrible. But yes, one male did accuse him. I do have 2 videos that I did a long time ago. One of them is from a news clip that I found of a woman who claims on this news story. She gives an interview to the news and says that he stopped me, and I think he was going to assault me too. And it was on this day, at this time, at this place, and blah, 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 blah. And the news played that interview live as it happened, to find out later that the time and the place that she indicated that Daniel approached her and was going to attempt to assault her, he was already off the street. So there was no way he could have been in a police patrol car doing everything she said. So I'll get that video and I'll put it in my Discord. And then there's another lady who came, what's her name? Shanice Barksdale or Sharice Barksdale?
Shanice, I think, Barksdale.
Shanice Barksdale. She actually went to the police station and wrote out a statement and made a verbal accusation that she had been assaulted by him as well. And oddly enough, Rocky Gregory caught on to her lie, knew that she was lying, probably because she wasn't on the list of females that was that Tim Musey had given to him. But she was found out to have been lying. She made a false report, and she was caught by Rocky Gregory. And at the end of that interview, when he calls her out, tells her he knows she's lying, asks her why she would lie, and she tells him she felt sorry for the old lady. Now listen, at the time this happened with Janie Liggins and she was pulled over and made her accusation, she was 57 years old. I'll be 62 years old this year, and I still don't feel like an old lady. But this accuser, this woman, Shanice Barksdale, said that she felt sorry for the little old lady or the little old grandmother or whatever, however she referred to it. And she didn't want her to be alone. She wanted her to feel like there was somebody else out there, basically, that could relate to her. So I'll also get that video and I'll put that in the Discord. Let's see, as always, there we go. Catnit's got the quote here. I felt sorry for the 57-year-old woman because of what he did to her.
She was so old.
Yeah, she was so old. She does, when she says it in the interview, she was so old. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Then she goes on, it was so sad and I wanted him to go down for what he did. I am truly sorry. I feel bad for her and I cried for a peaceful outcome on her behalf. Signed, Sharice Barksdale. And that was part of what's the complaint or whatever you call it that she made against Daniel. She says, I felt sorry for the 57-year-old woman because of what he did to her. Oh, I'm reading it again. Sorry, Kat. I realize now you're putting it both in my chat and in Foul Play. Sorry. Excuse me. So I'll gather up when I get this premiere video done that I've been working on. I'll get those other 2 videos and show them to you. I'll put them in Discord so you can see them. Now, the thing about Shanice Barksdale that's upsetting, besides the fact that she made a false accusation, it's a felony to make a false police report. If I'm not mistaken, that's a felony crime. And on the way out, and you'll see this in the video, and I'm just going to paraphrase because it's been a while since I've watched it. On the way out, after Rocky calls her out, tells her he knows she's lying, why would you do that, blah, blah, blah. I've got real victims out there who are blah, 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 blah. And he says, if I wasn't so busy doing what I have to do right now, I would arrest you and charge you for making a false police report. Words to that effect. Basically, though, if I wasn't so busy doing what I'm doing, I would arrest you. But that's just like a sliver of an example of how dishonest, if nothing else, he is. He knows that this woman standing right in front of him has literally just handed him a false accusation, then admitted that she lied and made a false police report. And he says, I'm not going to arrest you. I'm too busy with other things right now. So I'm not going to arrest you and charge you with a felony. Maybe I'm making too big of a deal out of that, but that is some bullshit. That just really set me off when I heard that. And like I said, you'll see it in the video for yourself. I know my words are wrong the way I said it, but that's the gist of what he did. Now, I do believe that she was eventually, quite some time later, they did charge her with something, but it wasn't a felony. It was whatever it was they charged her with. They made it a misdemeanor, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm pretty sure she did not do any jail time. Now, none of us could do that. If any one of us on this panel or anybody in the chat did something like that, made a false police report knowingly, and then admitted that they made a false police report, we'd probably be going to jail in that moment, I would think. Or at the very least be getting handed a citation for that crime. But they didn't do anything with her, and I want to say it was several months later. And the reason is they wanted to, that all Rocky and Kim wanted was to get the victim. And you can see by the dates that were on those slides and in reading those emails, you can see how they were just running. Some of those days just had so much activity going on, looking for victims. Not, to my knowledge, there wasn't anything ever said on the news. If you believe you could be a victim of this, of an officer, blah, blah. I don't really remember hearing, and I didn't hear them all, obviously. I don't have all the clips, but it's not something that I ever heard of, them putting a report out on the news. Hey, if you may be a possible victim of assault by whatever, please contact so-and-so at Sex Crimes. And I never heard that or saw that. Did you? Do you remember seeing anything like that, Cherie?
No, I don't.
I mean, not that it didn't happen. It's just, if it did, it wasn't very often. But instead, they don't want people necessarily calling them. They have a very specific list of women who they want to get in touch with themselves. They want to go out and find these women. And they have to be a very specific woman.
No photo lineup? Really? No photo lineup?
Right. And they need to make sure that the women that are going to make accusations fit the demographics that Tim Musney created, and that there's an AVL to go along with it.
Yep.
And
wasn't there one that even maybe this was during close to the trial where she said that or she told her attorney about that she'd been sexually assaulted by a police officer, but the attorney showed her Daniel, and she just said it wasn't him or something like that.
She
So
said
they
it wasn't him.
So Kim wasn't interested.
Yep.
Don't
Yep, that's
want
exactly. I can't remember her name. If I heard it, I would remember it, but that's absolutely right.
Sandy Goff rings a bell, but I'm not sure.
Sandra or Sandy Goff. Yes, that's right. So I don't know, guys. It's insane to me how this all was formulated, crafted, fabricated, planned. And it's, we talk a lot in the Avery and Dassey cases about, how, so many people had to be involved in, if this is a setup and a conspiracy with Stephen and Brendan, too many would have to have been involved. There's no way. Well, first of all, I don't believe that theory, number one, but compared to this one, it didn't take a lot of people. It took the people who were involved in it directly. Tim Musney, the lieutenant of sex crimes, Rocky Gregory, Kim Davis, Valerie Homan, who was Kim's partner, and Denise Wenzel and Ron Basie. What was
that's right.
Ron Basie.
Yep.
Really, that's all it took, and they all. That's a tight-knit group, and that's all it really took to make this happen. The accusers, it was just a matter of getting them to, to be willing to create a story, and that's all it took. And in the wake of all of that, they ruined a man's life. They've taken a man's life. And as much as I believe Stephen and Brendan need new trials or just to be exonerated altogether and released, telling you what, it makes me sick knowing that Daniel is serving, like I said earlier, the equivalent of 2.5 lifetimes in prison for multiple crimes that he just didn't commit. And the lies that were told just seemed so blatant to me that it's beyond comprehension, because it takes more people, more witnesses, quote unquote, lying, to make these crimes or these allegations believable. And the fact that Jack alluded to it earlier, the jury had to be really, really afraid. Not only could they hear the chanting down below on the sidewalk right below their window, but from my understanding, the inside of the courtroom, not the courtroom, but the courthouse, was a very small, compact place, and they were struggling. And I think it's in a Jackson v. Deno hearing that I'll try to get my hands on and share with you guys. But I believe it's in a Jackson v. Deno hearing. Am I saying that case right?
I think so. Or it might be
so.
Dano, but at least it's close
anyway,
enough.
It was a camera hearing between the attorneys and the judge. And they talk about that. And even Galen Gigger, who I also think is a disgusting puke, he even says it's so crowded out there with the media and the public that it's like practically shoulder to shoulder. And you've got the media, according to this hearing, the media, the public, and the jurors all in this same hallway trying to get to the one bathroom that the jurors can use, that the public gets to use as well. And I believe we've already read testimony that I believe it was Janie Ligon's testimony, not her testimony, but during her testimony case, somebody was found by the judge with a phone camera, their camera on their phone open, and he instructed the bailiff to take the phone, confiscate the phone immediately. And basically, that wasn't the only incident where jurors, or not jurors, but people in the gallery were found to have been trying to take pictures of the jury, of the members of the jury. Um, I can't imagine that anybody on that jury went to use the restroom and not been encountered by a member of the public. You know, that's just the way the court was set up. The courthouse was set up, and there's everything wrong with how, you know, with how it all happened, and how the jury was not protected. I don't believe the jury was protected from the sounds of it during the dental hearing. Oh, sounds like for you, Jack. And so, as we're able to get more transcripts, I can get some of those in-camera hearings, or because there's several in-camera hearings that we can also share with you guys. So, listen, I feel like I've ran my mouth quite a bit. I do that all the time, but there's a specific reason why tonight. But I feel like the slides, Kat, that you put together, very, very, very informative in my opinion. And all the work that Kay and Sherry did on the slides from the beginning, you know, since we started the slide presentation, great job gathering that information and putting it together in slides, because it's some of the smaller things that you don't really get to hear unless you actually, you know, we get to them in the trial transcripts, of course, which eventually we'll do. But for those of you who weren't here when I started, the video that I was working on to present tonight, I decided to show that in a premiere. I think I'm going to schedule the premiere for Sunday. And I'll put it in the members only chat room in Discord for those of you who are members. If you want to watch it first, you'll be able to do that. But then we'll schedule it for yeah, the slides were awesome. But you picking them out like you did, though, Kat, don't discount what you did. I would have lost my mind trying to do it. So I think you did a great job. Everybody give Kat a hand as well.
That's right.
So
fantastic job.
That is, yeah, really, really good. That's going to air as a premiere. And because it's going to be a premiere, it will be uninterrupted by my comments. But I will be in the chat to answer questions, or, you know, comment back and forth with you in the chat when it premieres. You guys, I feel like I don't have anything left to say. I think there's a lot for viewers to learn about Sherry Ellis's story. And I think so far it's been explained very well in the slides, and it will go further when we kind of take apart Bates's podcast a little bit and put the interviews and stuff in the video. Thank you so much, Jack and Sherry, for reading out all that stuff, and for all the great comments in chat. Some great comments and great questions as always. I really appreciate all of you guys for being here. Jack, do you have any, we're going to wrap it up and end here. Jack, do you have any final comments that you'd like to make?
Just briefly, I've got to where, we all watch our own little niche of, I watch a lot of different YouTube videos, but recently in the last few weeks, I started watching a couple of different channels, and it's basically where police officers are pulling over drunk drivers or Sometimes it's other cases, but it's typically people under the influence of either alcohol or drugs. And watching these various departments, and they're all over the country. I mean, it's mainly been more East Coast stuff, but there've been some from California, a few other states as well out west. But watching these various police departments and these various officers, how they are confronted with drunk drivers, and the 180-degree shift between some and others. It's really fascinating. But the patience of many of these officers is, I'm a patient man, and I can tell you, some of these people, I would be ready to get my gun out and put it in their nostril, because they're so abusive. They're so terrible. But that's a different story. Just wanted to share that. I will get you that video I was talking about with that Oklahoma judge. You're going to love it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've seen it.
It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts what this judge does. And it's about this guy that you just have to watch it and see about what he does and what he actually tries to do about what this judge is doing. It's pretty insane.
I can't wait.
Yep, that's pretty much all I got. Of course, we got a little plug for Foul Play for Saturday. We're heading back into more reading with the crew. I think we're still going to be on the New Witnesses Emerge chapter. I think Doc has dug up some more info on actually an old witness in the case. So we'll be talking about that. And then open mic on Sunday. Pretty well settled. I think we're going to start on the queso calls. So that should be fun too. That's about all I got. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Jack. Cherie, what would you like to say to our friends?
Well, I thank everybody for coming to join us and learn about Daniel's case, and please keep learning about it. He needs to be free. Thank you.
He does. And yep, I agree 100%. Keep your eyes open for the scheduling of the premiere for this weekend. And we'll go perhaps we'll talk about Sherry Ellis's police report a little bit next week, but definitely, if not, we'll definitely be ready to end with the preliminary trial hearing testimony. So stick around and watch for all of that. Talk about the case with others who aren't familiar with it or don't know anything about it. Share the videos. Share your opinion. And I think until next week, peace out.